When I started.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to do a report back. If I can have your attention real quick. I just wanted to make a couple points. So one, I know it's already 7 o'clock. If you know me, I'm always running late, so I apologize. I do have business cards up front. Feel free to email me if you have a question and you need to head out. But like I mentioned, we're going to do a report out real quick of the stations. I'm going to have somebody from each station come back and give us kind of the big overarching themes. And then after that, we're going to open it up to Q&A. All right, so Brian, putting you on the spot. Station 1, what'd you hear?
Thank you. Hey, big shout out to Station 1. You know, we're not playing favorites, but you guys brought it. Thank you so much for your feedback. Okay, a couple of things. We talked a good amount about skateboarding. I had an interesting mix of parkour, passionate folks, skaters, and residents. And so I thought that was a really healthy conversation, as well as dog advocates, as well as children's play area. Some of these things are inherently, they might feel like they're in conflict, but we found a ton of common ground. For example, we heard from members of the skate community that if there are places that skaters are going to gravitate towards, they're probably going to be in more of this geographic area because of the current community at Harry Bridges Park and Plaza, as well as here, as well as over towards the pier, further to the north. And so even the residents themselves, who at first voiced noise concerns about skating, said, well, if there's skating in the park, it probably makes the most sense here, and so too did skaters. The other thing that was discussed was, children and dogs. And the surface, the two might not mix, but then a lot of the family members, talked about just what a Saturday looks like. Got some kids in tow, you've got a fitness area, you might have the dog, and how if we do constellate those uses together in this area, they actually make for a nice afternoon. It kind of completes an entire experience, whereas otherwise families might be split up, having to sort of divide and conquer if those uses weren't together. I could go on. Those are some of the hallmarks of us finding common ground between uses and users that don't inherently maybe feel complementary, but actually can find a home on this great park because of its scale. That was really inspiring for me. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Station 2, Young. You have the mic. Thank you, Vanna.
So my station was seating and gathering areas and fitness elements. So first of all, there's a lot of green on here, so it was really great to see all of your feedback. And then the reds were really interesting to hear from as well. So starting at the top one, seating and gathering. So it was a range from discrete, kind of interactive, movable, singular seating elements to continuous or sculptural features. And you can see a lot of the greens are towards a continuous element. And that was really cool to see. There's a lot of red in the movable, and the reasons for that were really interesting and actually made me really happy to hear that people were concerned about theft, maintenance, that I really appreciated the mindset that people were already thinking about this park, wanting to make sure that the amenities are preserved for future users to use. And then for the fitness, also interesting in that greens are kind of in the middle of the gradient, and then more reds on the other end. And so the gradient here was something that was more imaginative, environmental, almost like adult play, towards something that's more prescriptive or standardized fitness equipment that you see around the city. And people seem to like something that was in between, something that wasn't too kind of cold or corporate looking, but something that also didn't feel like it was too out of place in an urban setting, like having that kind of natural kind of workout area. So thank you for all your input.
Okay, so for the program character gradients, we had dining and picnic and garden. I really appreciate these boards because these green dots and red dots can really tell a story here where folks are kind of landing more for the garden spaces, more towards natural and naturalistic, less folks for highly structured. We had some folks write in, that these highly structured ones might be too much maintenance, whereas the naturalistic ones, less maintenance. some notes here about local native plants for birds and butterflies and bees. So some great ideas layered into this, even some ideas on wetlands with native plants for dining and picnic areas. Less focused into the natural loose picnic and dining and more into blended, maybe a little bit of both with natural ordered. And folks really liked Civic. This is a picture of Bryant Park. So that was great feedback to hear as well.
Hello everyone. I was in Station 4 and what I heard for historic recognition, there were a lot of opinion on like reuse of the fountain. The fountain itself is a separate topic, but like in terms of the historic recognition, a lot of people said that it would be nice to recognize the fountain in different ways. There are great ideas in the sticky notes that we are noting down for our design, and I think overall I like that people were really integrated towards the reuse of the fountain. And for the plaza space, I think the main comment that I heard from a lot of people was the street artists didn't feel represented in the gradient, so there was like they had their comment in here, so we are noting down that. And then there were mixed reaction on the integrated option where people liked skateboarding, some people didn't like it, so there was some mixed reaction on that. The layered was something that a lot of people liked, like integrating landscape and hardscape together and making that space more green. That was another comment that I saw. A lot of people were putting green cards on. Yeah, I think that's it. And I have more comments that I've jotted down which we'll consider.
All right, the moment many of you are waiting for. Q&A. So here, just to answer questions, make sure we're all leaving on the same page. I can't answer everything, but I'm going to answer things to the best of my ability, and I'll bring in some experts up if I need to. So I'm going to go in order up here. Yes.
Hi, my name is Oceana Valancourt, and I am the daughter of Armand Vaillancourt, who designed the fountain, and very saddened by the news that was talked about today. In 96 years, I don't think my dad has ever asked me to help him. He's going to be devastated by this news, and I'm hoping that today all of you can help us with this decision. I think the fountain is a big part of our history. My mother was a street artist, so I love the comments about where are the street artists. My mom was a street artist in the 70s. She worked at the fountain. She met my dad at the fountain, and without the fountain, I would not exist. I work in San Francisco. I'm 2 blocks away. I go by the fountain every day. Obviously, it's a big part of my history, a big part of my family's history, and I just can't imagine the fountain not being there. So I know the skateboarding community has really been, backed us up in regards to the fountain because a lot of the skateboarders come to the fountain to skateboard. It was a big part of, Tony Hawk's video back in the day. And I just hope that we can gather the community and hopefully change the decision of removing the fountain. Again, please help me, please help us. There's going to be a very high cost of removing the fountain. Also, why has the fountain not been kept? It is, I don't think it's 29 million, but you're saying it's 29 million. This should have been something that the city upkept every single year, and we would not be in this predicament of removing the fountain. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Oceana. Yeah, so we did meet with the Valancourt family, not Oceana, but we did meet with the Lexi. We did meet with Armand Valancourt, with John Valancourt, and we heard what they wanted to say as well. We did ask them, we heard from the first community meeting, people wanted the fountain removed, people wanted to keep the fountain. Is there something in between? Their answer to us was a hard no. They want it to be restored in its full glory. If you go up to it, it's an iconic piece. It is huge. There was running water. It was participatory. There was steam coming through it. Nothing like this could be built now. Like it's quite an impressive piece, and I'm not arguing that. The thing that they asked us to do was to get a cost of restoring it and a cost to demolish it, which is what you're asking, right? The cost to restore the fountain was $29 million for construction alone. So that's not including permits, that's not including soft costs or anything else. The cost to remove the fountain is about $2.5 million, hazmat included. And so we're looking at this with the lens of this is our project budget of $32.5 for the project. The cost to restore the fountain is over our project budget when you're including all the soft costs as well. In terms of why is it in the condition it is, what the heck? The piece itself is part of the Civic Arts collection. So it's on Rec Park property, but it is part of the arts collection. What that means is that for their charter, they're responsible for upkeep and maintaining it, so on and so forth. Through the years, Rec Park has been maintaining a lot of the underground systems, just because we don't have a contract to do so, we just have been. When kind of finding out why that has been is when the fountain was created in 1971, Arts Commission didn't have the means or the ability to bring on engineers or plumbers to continue maintaining the fountain. So Rec Park just has been over the years. When the last pump stopped working last year, we started doing internal cost estimates. Just getting that pump going again is $3 million. Now that we're looking at this whole thing as a whole piece of restoring it and bringing it back to life, taking in the structural considerations, that it's not a seismically safe piece, we have to kind of go into it. So right now, as the fountain sits without water and with a fence around it, is the way that it is. And to bring it back to life and to all its glory is $29 million. So the next kind of parts and steps is from here, we're gathering community input. Then it goes to the Visual Arts Commission, and there's another opportunity for community input at that stage. We're going to keep going through questions, but if you have some pictures.
I just wanted to add, I'm all for the redevelopment of the plaza. I work with developers. I'm actually here in the city. I've been part of our development of the city. I've built, I think, over 7 buildings here in the city. So I am all about redevelopment. I understand innovation. I understand that there's change needed. But I think we can do that with keeping the rich history that the fountain has with San Francisco.
Thank you. I'm gonna go with these guys and then you. Do we have a second mic by chance? If not, we'll just need people to come up. Okay.
I'm just gonna cover Vanna White for a second. So if you don't mind coming up, because unfortunately the cord's not long enough. Thank you. I'll hold the mic for you.
What a thrill. I didn't know your parents, but I did work in the plaza in the 70s. And so I enjoyed the fountain a lot. I used to climb on it a lot. In fact, just before the fence was put up, I went and took another look, and it brought back a lot of nostalgic good memories. I think now, because they didn't restore it and keep it, because many times it wasn't working and it turned into a big toilet, unfortunately. But I think it should be memorialized in some way or another. But what I'm here really to speak for is the street artists. You see all these photos up here. Street artists have been there since 1972. There's no photo of street artists. None. And your parents worked there. There are a bunch of street artists out here as well. And somehow, when you see pictures of a ferry building in downtown, the Embarcadero, no street artists. They always take a picture on a Monday when nobody's working. But we've been there, in the beginning, 150 artists working in the lower plaza. The numbers dwindled when the program opened up and people could sell all over the streets. But in 2003, when the ferry building opened, the number of street artists went up to 125, 150 sometimes. So we are there, we keep the place safe, okay? We keep the place safe. And so I want to make sure that we have a place there. Now I see there's a great little thing there that says art, okay, and I speak public art. Don't forget the street art. The other thing is skateboarders. I love you guys, I think it's great exercise. But skateboarding and an art booth, an arts and crafts booth, do not mix. And sometimes you guys go down walls and stairs, stuff like that, and the boards go crashing into us. And there's no apology to just give me my goddamn skateboard and let me go. So I want you guys to have a place, but when I see it's right next to where the artists are set up, that's ridiculous, because people make stained glass and jewelry and everything else. So don't forget the street artists. I'll be glad to give you guys some good photos. And let's make this beautiful. I think what you've got so far is fantastic. It's really good. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. And then, is there any person you pointed to? Okay, hi.
Hi, Andrew Sullivan, I'm a landscape architect, and I just wanted to say, first, thanks to all the work and thinking that's been done, and I know it's a really complex process and project, and that similarly, I understand the need for redevelopment and all of that. That said, I don't buy the idea that the presumption is that the fountain has to go. I think there should be a more reasoned and kind of thoughtful process that includes both the historic and the cultural implications of the fountain, the plaza, their context where they are, and then also within the whole redevelopment of Market Street and the Embarcadero, Holiday, UN, etc., and that whole, the contextual importance of those. The fountain, I think it's crazy, and in both a good way and sometimes a bad way, but it's iconic, and it's iconic in that location because of the location. And I think it's important to understand and respect that, and that we develop a design that is not a kind of design by committee, bits and pieces to make everybody happy. There's a reason why it was bombastic, and I think there's a part of that needs to be kept. And even if that's reincorporating it as components of a stage or parts of other elements within a design, there's a huge opportunity that I think we shouldn't let go.
And so, take over this side. Can I have a man in the back?
I just have questions of all the board. How much square footage could you gain by taking the town hall?
So the question is, how much square footage can the project gain if the fountain is removed?
Yes, lots of great ideas, and as much as something I've lived for 20 years, I don't think it's like that. But it doesn't mean I don't appreciate the art, and it's worked a long time ago, like children now from they find out that in 2005. Anyway, my question is, how much square footage would you gain for something else?
The fountain itself is about 8,000 to 10,000 square feet around it, and the plaza itself is about 40,000 square feet.
So it's almost 25% of the project.
Correct.
That's a lot of space for you to maybe miniaturize the replication, and it's something just mentioned, memorialize the fountain, and then it actually works. It's still a hard product. It is a unique piece, for sure. It's just seen its head. So, just talking 20 to 25% of the square footage of your renovation for all the things, including street art and stuff.
Thank you.
Well, there seemed to be an amazing amount of applause for keeping the fountain. And so with the time left in the development of the park, and it's all very good, and it is a unique fountain, has there been any discussion of a GoFundMe? It's not in your budget, but there's other parameters that could be thought of to raise the funding for the fountain itself, aside, which would also be private. Has any consideration been given? And in terms of the cost, you mentioned it was $100,000 a year to maintain it. I think we have 800,000 residents in San Francisco. That's 25 cents a piece per year. So $100,000 to me doesn't sound like a lot of money compared to the amount of people that live here. And again, the 28,000 sounds like a large figure to someone who doesn't have 28,000, but the city budget, even with all the cuts, is still larger than states like New Jersey. So I think there was a scare tactic of throwing out those numbers, but those numbers to me don't sound so scary when you consider the total of San Francisco. But the fundraiser aspect of gathering funds to restore the fountain and put it back in condition, has any consideration been given to that?
Yeah, so two parts of the puzzle there. It's $100,000 to maintain it a year, but there's also the time consideration, right? So our staff that's maintaining this also can't maintain other parks and other areas because they're spending time on this, right? That's one part. I'm just saying, whole picture. 29 million to completely restore the fountain. And that cost, that would be something that we would need to talk with the Arts Commission about because it's their piece. The funds that we have right now for downtown revitalization aren't to fix an art piece, it's to revitalize the downtown area and to revitalize the parks. And so that's a conversation that we need to have with the Arts Commission on bringing those funds to restore the fountain.
The person in the brown shirt.
Would you rather?
Whatever you like.
I just wanted to ask that those of you in charge consider this question, which is why Justin Herman's name was removed. Justin Herman, as a lot of you probably know, was the father of the so-called urban renewal executive system. His approach was to rip everything out. When I was a kid, all the Victorians were being ripped out and start fresh. That's clearly what we're doing here, and in a way, this is like the Justin Herman approach. Just get rid of everything that we hold dear in order to have a clean slate where you can think about programs. And I think that those of you who are both remove Justin Herman's name from the plaza and are moving this plaza should consider the plan.
So I can help answer that one. So then former Supervisor Aaron Peskin was the one who did the resolution before the Board of Supervisors to remove the name of Justin Herman Plaza because he felt a lot of the history of his work in redevelopment wasn't fitting. So he moved forward. The board approved his resolution to remove the name. He had a temporary placeholder, which is Embarcadero Plaza, which is what it is today.
So we were all in favor of removing the name Justin Herman. What I'm saying is that Justin Herman would have approved of this process, which is to get rid of the past, make way for whatever.
Appreciate that comment. I'm just clarifying because you were asking when it got removed, and that's the answer to that one. Sorry. Yes, gentleman in the navy shirt.
Thanks. I'm Dan Rabinowitz, and I wanted to make two observations. First, I think we owe a huge debt of thanks to the people who are putting this project together, to Rec and Parks, and to the designers. This is conceptually a genuinely brilliant design, and it is a design which hinges on the ability of integrating both parts of this park as one greensward space. That's a huge benefit for the city, for all of the different individual and collective users of this park, and for the future. And it is hard for me to see, regardless of the extraordinary cost that would be clearly entailed in maintaining the fountain, it's hard for me to see how the core of this design would actually work unless we can recapture that space for green space for the future. So I think this is a core element
of the design that all of us have been admiring this evening. And I think we have to recognize that. I do believe that memorializing the fountain in some fashion is an entirely feasible project. And I think that's something that should be undertaken as part of this redevelopment. But we have an obligation to the future as well.
Thank you. So just to re-clarify, because I think there's been questions in regards to funding for this project. It's for downtown improvement and recovery and revitalization. What Ioana was talking about, the cost of our project budget would not be able to cover the cost of a art restoration of the fountain piece. So that's the reason why it puts us in a position where the funding needs to go to an actual project that we can deliver. It cannot be used for restoration purposes because that was not the intention of that fund. Right. Okay. I see the person with the hoodie in the back over there.
We've mentioned how much it would cost to restore it. We've mentioned how much it would cost to tear it out. How much would it cost to spend 30 minutes from now brainstorming other options, like envisioning the fountain?
That is why we're here today.
So, my vision of the park is so my question is, what plans do we have for user space to create new iconic moments?
Thanks. So the plans over here are talking about having a stage and increasing usability, stage facing outward, so that way it's not towards the residents, but yeah, basically like having some kind of iconic stage. Hasn't been designed yet. Here's a placeholder of location based on our studies of sun and wind and sound, and also being able to kind of have that flow go outward. U2 concert happening at the Valcourt Fountain is facing this way and really limits the amount of people that are able to see and access it unless you're on the freeway. But yeah, thanks.
Thanks for hosting everything tonight. I feel like there's, I'm speaking on behalf of the document in the California chapter. I don't know if you're correct. And you know that introduce myself. I think there's sort of a tension in what was being presented tonight, and that it looks to show a demolition of the fountain and Embarcadero Plaza, and then what is offered in places not designed, which makes sense, because it's still in motion. But there's these ideas about programming, and I think what is lacking, or what feels like it's lacking in this presentation, is a conversation about preservation space. I would think that a hardscape area would be very appropriate for in front of a stage where you have a concert. It could be more accessible maybe than lawn. It's interesting that there's what you're calling a plaza, where there currently is not really a plaza, and the actual plaza that's there today. Will you be, I mean, are you thinking about demolishing Embarcadero Plaza? How much is that going to like play into what you're preserving? And I'm also hearing that you're calling it a park. When today you have like a park and a plaza. So I guess it'd be great if you just touch on Embarcadero Plaza, its role for mass gathering.
so great points. I think we're looking at what the actual materials are being used here, and this is just initial concept. The idea of the project is that we're unifying this space into a park that will have hardscape, that will have softscape, that will be mixed use, that will have circulation paths throughout. And so we're looking at how we can have a well-integrated single park instead of having a split down the middle of this versus that, but instead having this kind of multi-use area be the connecting factor to really be able to make this a dynamic, vibrant, accessible area. In terms of the plaza, are you demolishing the plaza? Are you getting rid of this or that? I think we're here today to really hear about what parts and pieces of Embarcadero Plaza, Subiram Park, and their history are super important, and then go into a deeper dive of cost estimates and what it takes to preserve them or relook at pieces and parts as we're continuing on. So yeah, there's parts of the brick paving that no longer meet ADA. Does it mean we're just gonna like take them out and throw them in the garbage? Or does it mean those parts and pieces are really important? Can we integrate bricks into those exact bricks into the new design, right? And so we're looking for that kind of feedback of what's important to you right now and why. I think the why is what the meat of the question, right? So hearing that people have these lovely memories of Embarcadero Plaza, and I got so many emails of people talking about, you know, I ran through it as a kid and I was splashing water and maybe I drank some or, you know, whatever. But that's the reason that it makes this really difficult to consider it. It's like what people love is that it was a working fountain. What people love is that they could play and they could interact with it. And that's where that struggle is. So again, typically on our projects, we're offering multiple options with the fountain, without the fountain. That's kind of where we were starting at after Community One, is we're hearing these wants and needs from Jocomomo, from SF Heritage, from the Valencourt family. So yeah, we absolutely are considering this. But then once we got that cost estimate, which is something that some of the stakeholders requested, this can't fit within our project budget, but also there's safety concerns, and there's hazardous materials, there's seismic concerns, so on and so forth. So we're here to hear you out with this announcement. I know it's a lot, and we just want to take that feedback so we can continue the project.
All these concerns came about when my father came.
Okay, because it's 7:30 and we're way over time, but I'm going to take 3 more questions from folks. The woman in the mask and blue.
Hi, I'm one of the street artists in the street artist program, and I just heard the gentleman just explain that this area might be for skateboarders. This is where we have 2 rows of booths right here. This is Market Street sidewalk, so this is where the foot traffic goes right now. And that's very important for our, how we make our living. And most of us, all of us, this is our business, this is our livelihood. And so, the program's been around since 1972. Basically, it's very important for us to have foot traffic. This, I hope, would continue to be a sidewalk. Skateboarders right now are over here. This is a crosswalk basically. So I've seen the skateboarders wait for pedestrians to have to go by. And I understand that they deserve their own space. I think it would be great for somewhere over here where it's completely safe for everyone, because the skateboards go flying. They have to, I've seen people crash into pedestrians, whatever, and so I'm not against them at all. I'm just saying that they deserve their own safe space and somewhere where they can just go for it, And I hope that's not where we are, because we've been there for a long time. Anyway.
All right, we'll take 2 more questions. The guy in the back in glasses and the green t-shirt.
Thanks. I appreciate the thought that's been going into the presentation and the design process. I think maybe a question, since the city is facing over an $800 million budget deficit. Federal funding is obviously being cut off at the knees for the arts. We're facing a lot of economic turmoil. Have we thought about doing a version of this that costs less and then actually maintaining it? Because that seems to be where things fell apart. We failed at the maintenance. Have we considered an option that might cost $5 million, $10 million, that doesn't rip everything up, instead promotes the idea of maintaining what we have and figuring out a plan that will last the next 30 years? Because I just worry, I heard about the Superintendent Plaza, had to fix it, what is it, 10 years later? I worry that will happen here. Is there an option where the capital cost is lower and then we spend that money more thoughtfully over time that doesn't require just a one-time thing and then we're gonna defer that maintenance all over again?
Thanks. Yeah, so I think we're here to kind of consider what all the options can be. And I think part of it is that the issues with the fountain are from literally the soil on up. And so it's not just putting a Band-Aid fix or just making it so we can kind of continue it on for a few years. But part of that.
The plaza overall, not the fountain.
Oh, thank you.
Why are we
Plaza.
spending $35 million on the plaza and have no plan to maintain it?
Yes, thanks, got it, understood. So yeah, plaza overall, that was one of the shared goals that people wanted, was a place that is easily maintainable, a place that is accessible, a place that does feel safe, so yeah.
All right, one last question. Yes, the plaid t-shirt.
Thank you. My name's Andrew. I'm one of the skater guys. I was here at the last meeting as well. I just want to say I appreciate everyone voicing their opinions. I also appreciate hearing about all the concerns with the skate space, and especially we definitely hear you about the potential clash with like the art. Like that's the last thing we want to do is have any clash. I even heard a story that absolutely broke my heart about people feeling that they were forced out by the skate community. That is the last thing that we want to do, and I want to just make that clear, like representing us skaters over here, that's the last thing we want to do is force anyone out. We just want a space where we still feel that we're included, as was mentioned. You know, we're here, we're over at Pier 7, like we're already in the space. We just want to feel represented as well, and if that means like a separated space, that means a separated space. And I know that was a bit of a controversial thing, but I just want to voice to the folks here that we just want a place to practice our craft, and we're in favor of multiple options. So.
Thank you so much. So we have been talking with the skateboard community, Ted Barrow, Ashley Rayfield. One of the questions we had was, how do we design a space for the skateboarders, and how do we not design the space for the skateboarders and in some areas, right? And the response to that was through design. How do I say no skateboarding here without being a jerk and without just adding skateboard deterrents as an afterthought? And so part of that will be how we're designing the space and hearing your voices on precedents that work really well, and you see it and you're like, okay, yep, can't skate in this area, okay, this is my zone. So our preference is to not have to put signage up and have skateboard deterrents, but to make it obvious. And I think hearing these voices from the art vendors, hearing the voices from the skateboard community, I think the overall idea is that everyone wants to be heard and respected, and that's what we're trying to do here. We're way past time. I thank you so much, and my ask is that everybody be sure to turn in your surveys so that way your comments are heard, right? And there are multiple ways to engage with us. There's the surveys here. We're going to do it. We have a digital survey out as well. There's a QR code on there. If you're following our email updates, we'll send you the link, pass it around, and thank you everyone for your time.